Didik TV KPM.
Alright, let's continue with our lessons today. Alright, so this will be another questions, okay? For example, an international magazine has organized a short story competitions and you have decided to enter. The competition's rules say that the story must begin. Okay, so this time you have to use it to begin your story with the following words, right? So, Susan will never forget what happened that day. All right, so if you have these kind of questions in your SPM paper, right, especially your writing paper, right, so what kind of story do you have to write, okay? What kind of story you need to write in your writing paper? Okay, so first, if you look at the words given here, Susan, then you must include the main character Susan, all right, in this story. It is very important, right? And then another thing is, if you look at the words here, never forget what happened that day. So it should be an unforgettable incident, right? That Susan will never forget. Okay, so let's go back to the plan that I've just told you. Okay, so for example, in introductions, okay, we have to talk about the setting of the incidents. Okay, we have to introduce the main character Susan, and in the main part of our story, we have to explain or give the what we are going to include in that story, right? So we can talk about the events or the situations that Susan have, right? And then we can also have the plot of the story in it. And for the conclusions, we are going to end the story. You have to tell what happened in the end. And also we can have some comments or the feelings that maybe what Susan feel, okay, at the end of the story, right? Okay, so let's go back to the questions here, all right? You have to begin. That means you have to start your story with this sentence. Susan will never forget what happens that day, all right? So, how are you going to write this story? How are you going to continue with this sentence? So maybe we'll ask our friends here to help us, right, how to continue such a sentence. Okay, when you listen to your answer, you can also try to identify what kind of situations that Susan have, right? Okay, so let's start with, maybe you can just ask anyone here that anyone would like to start to give the sample, because this one actually is their homework, right? I have assigned it homework for them at home. So we will like to see what will they have for their introductions, right? Okay, anyone here would like to start first? Anyone? Okay, Yibun, okay, you may start first.
Yes, teacher. So I will write, Susan will never forget what happened that day.
All right.
It was a sunny and cloudless afternoon. Susan was traipsing back home after having an exhausted day at school. She was walking through a street which she could never be more familiar with. Out of the blue, a group of people who gathered at the corner of the street caught her attention.
All right, thank you, Yibun. Okay, so you can see that in this paragraph, right, this introductions paragraph, Susan was very tired, right? She just got back from the school. All right, okay, let's listen to another story and see is there any different, okay? Anyone here would like to try this? The next one? Okay, Tring, okay, can you give us your introductions? What happened to Susan then?
Yes. Susan will never forget what happened that day. She just passed the final examination with flying colors.
Okay.
She was in high spirits on her way home. Suddenly, she heard an extremely loud and unusual scream from the alley.
All right, okay, thank you. Right, so this time Susan is not tired at all.
Yeah.
This time she was so excited because she just passed the exam, right? Excellent, right? With excellence. Okay, so let's see another Susan, like what kind of Susan we will have, right? Okay, anyone here? Loie? All right, Loie. What happened to your Susan?
Susan will never forget what happened that day. She was sleeping soundly as usual, and suddenly she was woken up by the sound of crying. She jumped out of her bed and realized that someone was lying on the floor.
Okay, so this time is kind of scary,
Wow,
no?
okay.
Someone was lying on the floor, right? So this Susan maybe will have something happen on that day that she will never forget what happened that day, yeah?
Yes.
Sounds like a bit closer, yeah, very close to the sentence there. All right, how about Junwei? What is your story?
Susan will never forget what happened that day. Susan and her sister, Jenny, decided to go snorkeling since the spell of rainy weather had broken. They told their parents about the plan and got their green light.
Okay, so this time Susan got another to accompany her, right? Susan and her sister. Okay, so you can see that although we have the same sentence to start with, we can actually create different story, right? Just you have to plan what kind of situation you want this Susan to be in, right? Just that remember that this situation will be the situation that she will never forget, right? Not?
Yes.
Right? Yeah. Okay, so let's see, right? Let's do a recap of what we have learned today. Okay, so when writing a story, first, of course, you have to plan ahead. You need to know what you're supposed to write in your introductions. You need to know what are the things that happen in the story. And also, you have to give an ending to that story, okay? So that would be the first thing.
Okay.
And the second thing, you use past tenses. You may ask, why do we have to use past tenses in our story? Because the things, okay, the story that you told other people, okay, must be the things that have been, that had happened, okay? Then only you can tell other people, correct?
Correct.
So those story has to be in the past, okay? So we have to use past tenses. And then we have to use linking words to organize our story, okay, so that our story will be more organized so that people can follow the storyline of our story. So linking words are very important in writing a story, okay? And also, we can use the 5 senses to help us to describe the story so that it can be more lifelike, it can be more interesting, and it can attract the attentions of our readers, right? So those are very important.
Teacher, I have a question. Is it necessary for us to use all 5 senses in our stories?
Okay, it depends on what kind of story you're going to write. Okay, for me, I would say like, okay, you can use as much as the senses that you want to put in your story.
Okay.
But then sometimes, okay, in your story, if it doesn't have a relations with smell, for example, you're not talking about the smell or taste, then you no need to like forcefully put the sense inside it, all right, into your story. Okay, you just have to pick like a few senses that you think is a must is in your story.
Okay,
all right?
understood. Thank you, teacher.
Okay, all right. So, and then how to begin or to end a story, you have to always look for the indications, all right, or the words that have been given to you, especially in that questions, right, in that story. Okay, so you are going to see, okay, what kind of situations the main characters actually had in that story. So that will give you a hint of what kind of genre of the story you are going to create. All right?
Okay.
Okay, so next. All right, so let's come to the end here. So we would like to hear from our pupils here, okay? I'm going to ask them to share their insight of today, what have they learned from the lessons today, okay? So it's also a recap for you, like to think about it, okay? To recall what we have learned previously, right?
All right.
Okay, so maybe we'll start with the first one, Tring. Tring, what have you learned today?
Without doubt, I've learned something fresh and also useful today. When writing a story, a complete and also logical background is a must. By describing the characters and events in much more details, the reader can imagine and also understand the whole story better.
Okay, yes. She mentioned about the logical sequence, right? That's why you have to use all those linking words to help you, right? To guide you. Okay, Yibun.
Yes, teacher. Well, I used to be scared of writing a story before, but now I don't think it's a problem for me because I learned a lot from today's lesson. First, I know how to plan my story. For example, I know how to introduce my story, how to set a setting, and so on. Secondly, I know I have learned a lot of adjectives today, which I can use to describe the place, the time, or the weather in my story. Lastly, I learned that I can also add my 5 senses in my stories, so my story can be more detailed.
All right, thank you so much. Yeah, very important to put the 5 senses in your story. Not necessary to have all 5, but you can have a few, right? Okay, and next, Junwei?
I have learned a lot of new knowledge in writing today. Applying the 5 senses in a story is the most important thing that I learned today.
All right, okay.
I will emphasize the 5 senses in my essay writing to make my story become more interesting.
All right, thank you. Yeah, 5 senses, very important in writing a story. Okay, and how about Loe?
Yes, I have learned a lot about writing skill today. Before that, I used to be writing a story in an unorganized way, but now the problem has been solved as I know how to create a better setting and plot for my story.
Okay.
I also learned how to link the story with the words given.
All right, thank you so much. Yeah, very important. You need to know how to link the given sentence, okay, the sentence that given to you. But not necessarily they will give you the sentence. It depends, like I say. Because sometimes they will just give you a title, right? They give you a title, like, for example, A Good Neighbor. And then they ask you to write a story about a good neighbor. Okay? You can also use this plan to talk about your story. Yeah.
All right. Miss Sim, I would also like to ask you, is there any other tips you'd like to share with all the pupils watching at home for us to score better in the writing segment of SPM?
All right, okay, for writing, very important, you have to remember that when we look at the writing, the answers, right, the essays that you have written, normally we will check for, of course, very important, we are going to check for your vocab, your spelling, your grammar, everything like that.
Yes.
But a very important thing is, like I say just now, the linking words. So that tends to, like, pupils tend to forget to use the linking words. It's very important, for example, those conjunctions, sentence connectors, because those are the words that can help you to link your ideas together so that your reader will not be, like, lost, okay, when they read your story and things like that. So this is very important.
Okay.
And then, like just now I've mentioned, also the 5 senses. This is also one of my pupils shared to me because he said that the most important tips, okay, that he wants other pupils to learn as well is the 5 senses because it helps him a lot.
Okay, thank you so much, teacher. And what would you recommend for pupils? Like how much time should be allocated for writing this segment in SPM?
Oh yeah, okay. Talking about the time, because now this is a new format.
Okay.
So they have like a totally different format from the previous one. Previous one we have 2 essays in 1 hour and 45 minutes.
Okay.
This time we have 3 essays in 1 hour and 30 minutes.
Oh wow! So how much would you?
That means if you would like to separate them, right? Average, like you want to put like 30 minutes for each essay, but that one actually is not enough because you need to refer back to the words. Okay, we have 80 words, 120 and 200 words, right? Okay, so you actually have to allocate like maybe 15 to 20 for the first one.
Okay.
Okay, the second one you allocate like 30 minutes, and the last one you can have 45 minutes like that.
Didik TV KPM